A lot of people think the reason they can't move on is because they never get closure. No explanation, no apology, no proper ending. They think that if the person would just sit down, tell them the truth, explain everything, then they'd finally be able to let go. But I don't think that's true. I think closure is overrated because a lot of the time, closure isn't healing, it's just hope. It's one more conversation, one more message, one more chance to make sense of something painful, one more grand gesture. While you're waiting for closure, the rest of your life is waiting too. Today's episode is about dealing with breakups, and that covers a whole spectrum of coming out of marriages, divorces, from the relationship angle of it. Now, how is a breakup different in those two scenarios of just dating or marriage? And I think it's just your lives are far more entwined when you're married. You've got a house, you've got kids together. And although you may have those things already and you're not married, it just makes it more difficult when you're married because of the legal side of it. But the actual breakup, if you're coming out of a breakup and you're feeling that way where you're just sick to your stomach, where you cannot think about anything else, we're talking today about why we crave closure. Why are we looking for those reasons? What is it about how we've evolved in relationships that we're so desperate sometimes to find this? And it's about how we look at it as well. So why do we crave closure? We feel like we need answers. Sometimes when you feel like you've been blindsided, and often that is your perspective, it's not the other person's perspective. It's just your perspective of something has suddenly come out of the blue. All of a sudden there's been a change of heart. What made this person love me one day, want to leave me the next day? What was it? What happened? What were the details? Have they met someone else? Are they emotionally involved with someone else? Has that relationship already begun? Has that been going on for ages? We need all of these answers, and we're desperate to find a reason so that we can justify this hurt that we're feeling to ourselves, that's overwhelmed us, that's consuming the rest of our life and just turned it upside down. We want to find a reason for that. We feel like we need justice as well. We feel like we need everything justified, that maybe somehow it wasn't our fault and it's completely the other person's fault. But at the core of it, you do tend to blame yourself more. You tend to sort of, although you might want to hate the other person, you just think, what did I do? What did I do wrong? What was it that I did that changed the dynamic of this relationship? Not tell them I loved them enough. Did I not give them enough time? And the answer is, it could be all of those things. It could be none of those things. But we need to find meaning for ourselves, to justify it to ourselves, that why this has happened, why one day her life seemed so great and it was like Walt Disney, and the next day it's like a bloody horror film that you just can't escape from. And you just need to find some sort of meaning to that. We have this need to feel chosen and respected as well. We want to feel the reasons for this hurt that we're feeling now, that we're desperately trying to find the answer to. We want to know that it was for something. At the root of it, especially at first, you're desperately trying to claw back to get it back, get that feeling back, get that person feeling the same way about you, so you can feel the same way about them. Because closure isn't healing. It can just be your hope. What closure often really means is you want the pain undone. You want it to go away. You don't want to feel, you want to feel like you can eat again. You want to feel like you can get up in the morning and everything's where it should be. Everything's in its place. Everything's got its peace. And we want that pain gone. We want that pain undone. And our hope is about We want the other person to change their mind initially. We want them to regret it. They're going to miss me. I want them to miss me. They're going to miss what we had because they're not going to find another me. The truth is, they probably don't need another you. That was the problem. Whatever you two shared together wasn't right for one of you. Whether you're the person initiating the breakup or you're the person on the receiving end of the breakup, it wasn't right for one of you, and that's why it may be ending. And because it's ending, you want a different ending. You don't want what's happening now. This was not in your script. This was not how you saw things coming and how you saw things going. So you want to change what it is. You want that walking off in a sunset moment where, especially if like me, you've been brought up on rom-coms. You kind of think that's how dating and relationships should be because they were the things that when you watch these films that made you feel good. It was the walking off into the sunset when everything was right, the making the grand gesture, and we've all done it. I know I did it. I've bought plane tickets. I've bought gifts, and it's been those grand gestures that you think this will work, this will do it, and the reason you think that is because you watch these fantasy films all the time and you think that would work. That could work. That could be this story. That could be my story. And this is what's going to play out. And often the desperation of our efforts are ironically sometimes the things that turn the person and pull them away even more from you. You want a different ending to everything sometimes. When you don't choose your endings, it's very difficult. You want things to go differently. And when they don't go differently, you want to know why that didn't happen. You want to know the reasons why, like why you feel like you're being punished. Why is it always you? Why can't you just have some happiness? Why can everyone else be happy? Because that's what our perception of everything else that's going on around us is. Everyone's got a great relationship. When I think if we sit down to ourselves, we know that that's not always the case, but we're just living our own stories and we just want our own stories to have a happy ending and to have that sunset moment. And you're wanting certainty from the situation that you're finding yourself in, especially if you're in the initial moments of a breakup, which can be horrendous, absolutely horrendous for people that you can't explain it. You can't talk to enough people about it. You bore people senseless with your story because you want you want someone to say something that is going to make a difference. Anything, something that is going to make sense of it. And people will try to, but they won't because nothing is going to make sense of a situation that you're never, ever going to find out everything about. And even if you did, it may not change anything for you. You may be desperately chasing this closure that won't actually help you and could, in fact, make things worse because the person's explanation is not going to change the ending. You've already got your ending. You've already watched the end of the film. Maybe in a year's to come, there may be a sequel. But for the moment, that's done. What you're the ending that you've witnessed, the ending that you've seen, that's all you're getting. And nothing is going to change that, unfortunately. Why their explanation rarely will help anyway, even if you did get it. It's because it will be vague. If you've ever actually been the one initiating the breakup, you already feel dreadful about hurting someone else, about breaking up with someone, about breaking their heart and them being upset. You already feel really bad about that. And you don't want to compound that by telling them all the things that you just say to yourself. You don't want to hurt anyone even more. You don't want to drive the dagger even deeper into them, even if they're begging for it, because you just think, I don't know. So you're very vague about the explanation sometimes. And a lot of the time, because you're vague and you're trying to say it in a nice way because you're desperate to give them their into this, may be dishonest as well. It may be, it's not you, it's me. Well, that's not the case. It is obviously me, because if it weren't me, you wouldn't be breaking up. And the truth of that statement is often that it it is you, you're not for me. But that doesn't mean that you're not for someone else. It's just you're not for that one person. And if they did sit down and say to you, right, the reason I don't want to be with you anymore is because you annoy the fucking hell out of me. You disgust me. I look at you and I find you repulsive now. I don't want to touch you. And when you touch me, I just cringe. And I look at every other person that's walking past me and I don't look at you. You bore me. You absolutely bore me to tears. You don't offer anything to any conversation. You never help me out. You never, if you heard all this, you'd probably get angry and you'd probably hate them. And a lot of the time, maybe that's what we're looking for. Maybe sometimes we're thinking, I just want to hate you. I'm missing you so much. I want a reason to hate you now. I want a reason to detest you. I want a reason to despise you. And I want a reason to tear you apart in front of all of my friends. And I want all of my friends to hate you as well. And I want all of your friends to hate you for what you've done to me. Because it's that will somehow we feel like that will give us justification to it. So we're always trying to find reasons that are going to make this hurt go away that we're feeling it, and that's the thing that we want gone. And when it's not there anymore, you'll be fine, but it takes time sometimes to get to that stage. And hating the other person may do it, may not do it, but a lot of the time, and I think this is the case with divorce. Lots of divorces turn into hatred a lot of the time of each other, and I think that comes out of the hurt from the relationship, and that just doesn't help anyone. It just makes things more complicated, much more difficult to sort out in terms of arrangements moving forwards, financially, if you've got kids, and they're the ones that a lot of the time seem to be affected by it. The biggest thing with the explanation is it's not changing the outcome. If you think the person sitting down telling you what the reasons are so you can justify all those reasons and say, right, well, I'll do this better. Okay, I understand that I'm not paying you enough time. I'll do that better. I'll change this. I'll change that. That's not going to change the person's mind. And a lot of it's, in a lot of the time, that person's already moved on. That person probably checked out a long time ago, whether that was with someone else, multiple people, whatever it may have been. They're already out. They're already gone. You're chasing something that's not there anymore. They've already left you a long time ago. You're just seeing the door close. You're seeing the ending, but there was to them, there was lots of paragraphs before this ending, before this book shut. There were lots of paragraphs that just led up to it, but you just didn't see them. And sometimes we don't. And scrolling over messages and going over conversations and old holidays that you've had or arguments you may have had is not going to change anything. The outcome is what it is. You don't need closure to move on. If we're looking for real closure and a way to move on, it's about accepting as quickly as we can what's happened. What's happened has happened. It's here. You're already dealing with it. You can sit around and cry about it and, wear his old t-shirt, whatever it may be, and listen to songs that you used to listen to and go for long drives. And, we've all done those things. But the sooner you get to the problem and deal with the problem that you're facing, not the other person's made their decision. As soon as you deal with you, you'll get there quicker. And that's That's the most important thing to realize. And lots of the time, what you're grieving is not the other person, it's actually missing loving someone else, having something else in your life that you can give love to. Because lots of the times, I think with relationships, we love the feeling of being loved. But I think for me, it was always that feeling of feeling that way about someone, giving love to someone, wanting to do things for them, feeling like you're a better person because you're with this other person and they make you better because they bring the best things out of you. That, they make you happy, which makes you feel better. It makes you feel like a better person. And when that's not there and you're not giving this out, you withdraw it into this shell that is not the best of you because you don't feel complete sometimes because you enjoy giving that out to someone. Some people at Christmas, they love getting presents. Other people at Christmas, they love giving presents. They love giving to someone else to see them happy and to think, I've made that person happy, because that makes you feel good about yourself. It always made me feel good about myself, making someone else feel happy and getting and being able to do that. I think for me, that's when I knew I was in a good relationship or a bad relationship for myself, is if I had those feelings. If I was in relationships where I didn't feel that I wanted to do everything for this person, I knew it wasn't right for me. And I think coming out of a relationship that hasn't gone the way that you wanted it to go, that is often one of the biggest hurdles to get over, is thinking, where am I going to find this again? Where am I going to find a feeling of love like this for someone else again? Will I ever feel that again? Is that the chance that I've had? Has it gone? Have I lost that opportunity? And all of this will be wrapped around that this other person has taken that away from you. And that's what you're going to be missing. And it's an acceptance of realizing they've chose differently. Everyone deserves the right to be happy. And it's very difficult to accept sometimes that you haven't made this other person happy when you once did. Something changed to make them not happy. And that could be about them. It could just be you're not enough for them. And that's okay sometimes. It's okay not being enough for one person because you may not have what they want. It could just be simply that. It's because, you could be chocolate cake and they want a sponge cake. What can you do about it? You can't change yourself. And it's not that one's any better than the other. It's just that they prefer something else. So they need to be happy. And why would you want to be with someone that you don't make happy? You wouldn't want that. You'd never want that. Questions can stay unanswered. You don't need answers to every question that you've got, because you're not going to get them. And there may not be answers that you're going to agree with or you're going to make sense of. And for the reason that it's how the other person felt, and you don't feel that way. You don't feel that way. You're desperate to find reasons for why this has happened, but they're not your reasons. It's not your decision. This decision is out of your hands. You can do nothing about it at all. And you may be searching for a grand gesture, or I need to fight for this person. The other person probably doesn't want you fighting for them. And in fact, the best thing that you can do sometime is just cut it off dead and move away from them in terms of emotionally. Because if they are ever going to miss you, it's not going to be with you chasing them. If they are going to miss you, let them miss you. Just stay away from them. That's the best thing you can do for both of you, because it gives them time to process their decision and realize that they're going to move on in their life without you. Probably they've already moved on anyway, but we all know relationships aren't easy. So that may not work out. They may have made the best decision for them and they may go on to have a great life, which is great for them. But for you, that doesn't matter. It's got nothing to do with you anymore, with their life. You should be happy for them that they've got a life, but you need to be focusing on you and your life and finding what happy means for you in your life and finding love again in some way, however that may be. You need to choose your future over everything, over them, because it's about what you do next. It's about how you get through this. And there will be a period of grief because it is a loss. People around you might find that difficult because think, well, you're not married. You've just been dating for a couple of years, for 2 or 3 years. But for you, that could feel forever. That could have been the rest of your life, but just the beginning of it. You might have already seen how everything is going to turn out, and you were excited about that, and then that's ended. So you may not get the sympathy that you're looking for from other people, and that's going to be even harder for you because you're going to want to find reasons. You're going to want to talk this out. So, that's going to be a grieving process for you to get through. And it could be one of going out and having 50 bad dates. It could be having a few flings that you don't need and that you may regret. It could just be about layering over those emotions that you felt just to sort of get to a point of where you start remembering who you was again. And that may be a great time for you at that point, where you get to that point where you do sometimes in relationships forget about you and forget what you bring to the table, and sort of you lose that confidence after a breakup about what's good about you because you're questioning everything as, you know, am I still attractive to other people? Do other people still fancy me? Am I still funny? Am I still interesting? Have I got something to offer someone? Is everyone going to see the same thing in me that it wasn't right for this other person? And it's going to be a case of finding you again and finding that confidence in yourself that you think, do you know what? I've got a lot to offer, and it wasn't right for the other person. That's fine. I'm good with that now. But the longer you take getting there, your life continues regardless. Those sands of time are going through that little crack, and you can take a long, long time to get over heartbreak sometimes. And the quicker you can get to the nitty gritty of stuff, the better. You're waiting for closure while your life is waiting for you. It's waiting to move on to the next chapter, a different book, someone else that likes chocolate cake. You need to get to that point as quick as you can. So all of this is about maybe looking at your heartache differently, reframe your heartbreak. You don't need one final talk. I was in a relationship 4 or 5 years ago, I guess now, and it it was over sort of the COVID time, and it didn't work out the way that maybe I wanted it to work out. And when I saw this other person again, they were like, and by that time, I think it was clear it was already over. Now they were like, we need to sit down and talk. And from my experience of years ago of having one heartbreak, I just learned that final talks, grand gestures, all these things are pointless because if the other person's made their decision, they need to get on with that. You know, the final talk is often about them. It's not about you. It's not changing anything. You can sit down for half hour, and what they want to do is they want to sit down for half hour with you and go, look, this was great. I just haven't chosen you. They want to feel better about their decision. They want to feel better about themselves because they're hurting from making that decision anyway because of maybe upsetting you. There might be doubt as well that they've made the wrong decision, but often probably not. But they want to feel better about themselves. So your strongest position is to just go, no, I don't need a final, what is there to talk about? You've made a decision, bottom line, done. And when I learned to do that with a few things, it just became a lot easier to deal with things. It was like, right, done. And just as quick as that. because I just thought, a final talk for you, for you, is for you. It's not for me. You've made your decision. I've got what I need out of this. I don't need to hear anything from you. I don't need to hear that I'm a wonderful guy and, I'll find someone. I know that. I know I'm a nice guy. I know that I'll find someone. I don't need you telling me that. You've made your decision. Have a great life. Off you go. And then that's done. And also that gives you a little bit more independence in taking control of a situation that's out of your control. That's the part that you can control. You can control your involvement of how this finishes. And, you know, don't give that person the satisfaction of making them feel better. Listen, you've hurt me. You deal with that. I'll deal with me, and off we go. So, you don't need one final talk. You don't need one final message. You don't need sort of like white hearts and hope you have a great life. Sod that. You get on with your life. I'll get on with mine. And that may sound sort of bitter and twisted. It's not. It's just the reality of it. It's just that let's just both move on. You made a decision. What can I do? You know, that's the way it is. We're going to go our separate ways because then you can grieve and move forward. And that's what it is all about. It's about you moving forward, not getting stuck in this emotional sort of state where you just drown in your own self pity in the end. And it's easily done. And like I said, yeah, I did it for several years. And I look back and just regret wasting 3 or 4 years of my life, like realizing in the end that it was never about the other person anyway. It was just about me. That's what was the hardest thing to get over. So as soon as you start dealing with yourself and you know yourself better, and you can distinguish between, what's about you and what's about them, and everything about them push to one side because that's done. Just deal with everything about you. How are you going to move on? How are you going to make yourself better? How can you grieve and then move forward? You make your own closure. That's how you get through this. You decide what's next for you and close whatever's gone on. That's gone. Sometimes no closure is the closure you're getting. You're not going to get the explanation that you're looking for. You may not get your sunset moment. You may do. Years after I broke up with a girl, who was the one person that really actually affected me in a relationship. And years later, I saw her and she's really happy. She's got 3 great kids now. And complete chance. I was somewhere and bumped into her. She was there with her husband and their 3 kids, and it was actually, and I was in a good place as well. And it was just actually really nice to see her, and it was really nice to see that her life was going well, and I didn't feel any resentment because I'd let go of all of that stuff because realizing, as I said in this pod, it was about me. It was never about her anyway. And it, that felt like getting into my car and driving off. That felt like my sunset moment for me. And sometimes you get it years and years later, you know, because you think, no, I'm okay. This was good for both of us. It hurt like hell at the time, but you know, we're probably both now where we should be, and that's great. So sometimes, these moments that you're looking for, like I said, will come way down the line when you're not expecting it. And sometimes they might come back completely differently. The other person might suddenly miss you, and you might be in a place where you just go, yeah, no, I've been, no, and that could be your sunset moment when everything changes. You just never know how things play out. Life is a long time when we're in it. So enjoy all of it, the ups and the downs, because they make everything. Just remember, if you're feeling this way at the moment and you're finding it a battle just to get through, Lots of people have been there, but it's about you. It's about you moving forward and make your own closure. Guys, thank you for listening to Fifty Shades and Grey today. As always, please subscribe, please follow, please share. The channel is still growing, and it's great that it finds your ears and you enjoy and listen to it. And I enjoy sharing stories and talking about these things because I think it's important to share our experiences with each other, and sometimes just an independent voice away from people that know you might just give you a different perspective, or just give you some help, which is great to get your feedback that it does for a lot of you. So once again, thank you for joining 50 Shades and Grey, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.